Well, hi there. Welcome to the Learn Flute podcast. I'm Rebecca Fuller, your host and expert on all things flute learning. Today I'm going to be giving much needed tips on how to hold that slippery flute.
You can do it, and Rebecca will show you how, step by step all along the way. Introducing the Learn Flute podcast.
I'm excited you're here today so that we can discover and learn even more about how to play the flute. There's just so much information I want to make available to you, and I just realized that it's not possible to give it all to you in one dose. So I'll do the next best thing and chunk it up into bite-sized pieces so that you can listen, learn, practice, and ponder on it, and then come back for even more. Today we're going to be discussing a lot of important details surrounding how you actually hold the flute. Now, I totally understand that those first few weeks of holding the flute are the absolute trickiest. The instrument just seems way too long and extremely slippery. But even after those first few weeks, I have found that many students still have issues and some little details that they just don't know really could help. Now, at the end of this podcast today, I'll give you the link to watch a video I made all surrounding this exact issue. I take it slow enough and detailed enough that you can really learn something from it, even if you're not a brand new beginner. So first of all, I wanted to let you know that there are several balance points that you need to understand and learn how to identify when learning how to hold the flute. Knowing exactly where these are will really make a difference in your playing abilities. You'd be surprised to learn that clarity and tone are affected quite a bit with the different ways a person is holding their flute. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is your very first balance point. Now, if you hold your flute out in front of you, as if you're getting ready to play today, then you'll notice that there's a tiny little space between the first two keys of the body of the flute, the ones that are right up by the head joint. Now, this is a really great spot to notice because your eye can draw to it when you place the flute on your left hand. Now, the second little key there on the flute is the actual button, the little key that your left hand first finger presses. Now, if you tried to balance your flute under your finger on that spot, you're going to be having troubles. You'll especially notice this when you're having to switch from a C to a D. And that will be the very worst moment of your day because the flute will slip inward and feel like it's going to fall on the floor. Now, of course, we don't want that, so let's talk about this further. You'll actually need to balance the flute on the very top bone of your palm, at the base of your first finger on your left hand. So why don't you hold your left hand out right now, and let's find this exact spot. Sometimes I even draw a little X on my new students' hands with a pen when we're having this lesson. You'll notice that it's not actually your finger that's holding the flute, but rather your flute balances on that top portion of your palm bone. Your left hand finger is crooked back just a little bit as it curves around to reach that first key on an angle. Now, that angle is something that's important to pay attention here. Instead of your first finger reaching around the flute nice and straight, from directly under the first key, we will want to make sure that it's coming from the side. This does vary slightly because everyone has a little bit of a different size of finger. But I teach students all the way from age 3 up to about, 97 or so, and I haven't noticed that this instruction is ever any different. Let's move on now to the next balance point, which is the right hand thumb. Now, this is your right hand we're talking about now, and many students assume that this thumb is supposed to be holding the flute up. Now, with this mentality comes a new host of problems, and instead of discussing all the issues here that this causes, I'd just like to let you know what we desire instead. Your right hand thumb really does need to counterbalance the flute in more of a pushing motion. Let me explain. If you realize you're holding your flute with your left hand palm facing towards you and your right hand palm facing away from you, then you'll notice that with a little pressure, they counter each other. So it's best practice if you think of your right hand thumb needing to be a little bit on the back side of the barrel instead of the underneath. so that this pushing, balancing thing can happen effectively. Now, I know some students who are gripping their flute so tightly that their thumb is rolled underneath and slid way over to the side to the point where their hand hurts all the time. Maybe you've even experienced this yourself. After playing a passage, you may be tempted to hang your hand down and shake it a little bit in order to relieve the tension that has built. Now, this is a sure sign that it's time to look carefully at these balance points and the position of your fingers. Now, don't worry, I do have many lessons inside the membership area on my website, learnfluteonline.com, that addresses these exact issues in even further detail. Now, I show you exactly how to hold your fingers and what techniques are best for keeping you loose and fluid. You may have heard me say before that loose, fluid fingers are most conducive to having speedy fingers as well. And it's true. We can learn to be faster, more even players when our hand position is just right. Okay, let's talk about the next balance point. Your right hand pinky is super important to balance also. Now, I know it's common for students to assume that their right hand pinky is not even doing anything because they notice that it doesn't seem to make a change in pitch as they're first learning how to play. They kind of get this habit to not use it. But this is not actually true, and all flute players would be wise to learn and understand this even better. Now, of course, I could go on and on about the benefits of learning how to use your pinky properly, but for the sake of this podcast today, I will just mention that it is extremely important to tone and your balance as well. So learn to use that pinky wisely. And use it on every single note that it's supposed to be used for, even if you can't tell that it is making a big difference. Just take my professional word for it. Now, the very last balance point I'll mention in this podcast today is your face. If you imagine that you're holding your flute, as we mentioned earlier, with your left hand pulled towards you and your right hand pushing away from you, we have one more little spot that the flute has to touch your body. That position is underneath your lip, on your upper chin. That's the place of impact. Now, I guess we could do probably several days of learning about this tiny little spot, but for right now, I will just mention that it's one of the balance points to be aware of, the science of levers. That might just be opening a whole new discussion on levers and the science of learning how to play the flute. Music is science, and it's pretty darn cool. I'm pretty sure you'll agree. In order to join in on this conversation, remember to hop on over to the website learnfluteonline.com and check out the podcast section on the bonus page. As promised, I'd like to give you the link to the video tutorial page about balancing your flute. Here it is. It's learnfluteonline.com/how to hold the flute. Now, if you're going to type that in URL language, then you have to type it like this: learnfluteonline.com/how-to-hold-the-flute, because the spaces turn into dashes in the URL bar. Well, enough of that. I'm thrilled that you're learning how to play the flute, and I enjoy helping you out on your journey. Please feel free to come into the membership area on the website and take a lesson from me this week. I'm sure you won't regret it. Bye now.
Thanks for listening today. Remember that this is where people of all ages, such as you, can come, learn, and play the musical instrument flute in an easy-to-follow, organized manner, and in the privacy and comfort of your own home, on your own schedule.